Welcome back, everyone, to the 7th episode of Blue Collar, White Collar, with me, your host, Kieran, and my co-host, Nicholas Wheeler Hughes. Hello, Nicholas. For the second time.
Hello, Kieran. For the second time. How's it going? How are you?
I'm wonderful. Everything's going great in my life, so that's a positive thing. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm good. It's weird to kind of have, my own life, which is great. But then to kind of look up and watch, what's happening with Trump. To give everyone some context, we're in late February. Today's February 23rd as we're recording this. There's been a lot of talk about Ukraine recently, and just, basically Trump doing a 180 on the whole Russia-Ukraine conflict from what the Biden administration's approach was. We've got a Liberal leadership race that's about to conclude, with Mark Carney likely going to win that. And then we can assume that Mark Carney, he has said he's going to call an election right away. He's not even going to wait for Parliament to come back. He's actually going to call the election on March 10th, is what I've heard. So we're going to be into a general election very soon.
Yeah, and Nick and I were arguing before we started recording about the inevitability of Pierre Poilievre's prime ministership. And one thing that I could see is if he is going to be doing that, he's going to have a giant bump in the polls just from having won and becoming prime minister. I understand where you're coming from, but I still think that it's incorrect.
Well, okay. So, and this is going to kind of be the theme of our episode this month, is the Canadian general election that is coming up, and obviously things change, and I'm sure that when we're next speaking, the landscape will be different. Mark Carney will likely be prime minister by that time, because when you win the leadership race, you automatically become the prime minister when your party is in power. So yeah, March 9th, if I'm not mistaken, is the day where a new leader is elected. That looks like it's going to be Mark Carney, barring some miracle for Chrystia Freeland.
I'm still pulling out for Karina. I'm still pulling out for Karina Gould.
Check out Canada's Young Leaders.
Plug.
Yeah, plugged. But
it's a great show. It's too bad someone took it off the air.
Yeah. All good things must come to an end.
Ding, ding, ding. That's hilarious. That's the name of the final episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Tim, would you like to briefly explain your sweater?
It's from Star Trek. Continue.
So Carney, barring some disaster, becomes prime minister and calls a general election right away. That's what we're hearing. So Carney versus Poilievre. What happens? It'll be a 2-month race, approximately. It depends. The Liberals actually get to decide how long the race is. Kieran, what's your prediction for just how that goes? Not just the result, but like how what those 2 months look like.
It's difficult to really tell because so much of that depends on what's happening with the United States. Things change week to week with the new president, and you never know exactly what you're going to be facing, and it's something that's going to be constantly on the new prime minister, whoever it is agenda to figure out how to deal with. You never really know. Trump's such a wild factor in that. But
Trump has changed all the rules. Like just to be super clear, right? Like this is totally new territory. Trump is different from Trump 1.0. This Trump 2.0 is changing the world order in front of our very eyes. So you're absolutely right. We have no idea what is coming next. Tariffs, right? March 12th, I think, was the deadline because he gave us 30 days. So the tariffs could have a major impact. I cut you off. I apologize.
No, I wasn't. Wasn't sure where I was going. It's as I said, he's such a wild card that you never know what you're going to be dealing with. I think the longer the race goes on, the more likely that Pierre Poilievre is going to end up taking points away from the Carney leadership. I think his best bet is to have a short election. So if they can decide to have a shorter or longer election, I think making a shorter one while he still has the hype from coming into office after winning the leadership race. That's his best bet. Yeah,
the rule of thumb is that if let's say you're Justin Trudeau and you're better known than your opponent, you want to keep it as short as possible to give your adversary as little time as possible to introduce themselves to the electorate, right? So in 2019, when the Liberals were kind of calling the shots against Andrew Scheer, I believe it was in 2019, they had the shortest possible race. Same thing in 2021, they were up against Erin O'Toole, another person that the Canadian electorate didn't really know super well, and so the Liberals basically decided we want to give this guy as little time as possible to introduce himself. But now what's going to happen is that it's the opposite, right? The Canadian electorate knows Pierre Poilievre far better than it knows Mark Carney. So my bet is that Mark Carney is actually going to want more time. He's probably going to call the full 60 days, which I think is the max.
That's better for us in podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. But will that be beneficial? Because politics and elections are what Pierre Poilievre knows, right? Mm-hmm. Mark Carney knows economics and, managing finances. And this guy knows money, right? But he's about to start playing a game with players who are far more experienced than he is, right? Pierre Poilievre will attack him very effectively in the debates. I think he's going to be very strong, Poilievre, versus Carney. I think, English and French, I will favor Poilievre. And yeah, like Mark Carney can point to his very impressive resume, but I don't know. I think that he's got a lot working against him, and one of those things is that he's going to be carrying the Liberal banner. And it's true that Justin Trudeau was... people were more frustrated with Justin Trudeau than they were with the Liberal Party, I think. And so when Justin Trudeau stepped down, Liberal polling started to go way back up, right? Favorability numbers started to go way back up. So Trudeau was the heart of the problem. But I don't think that we can just say everyone's super ready for another Liberal government. I think there's a lot of people who are going, you know what? The pendulum has swung. My top issue is cost of living, and I trust Conservatives more than I trust Liberals on that question. So I'm going to vote for Poilievre. That's just what I foresee a lot of people thinking.
Yeah, and you're definitely right that people just wanted to get rid of Justin Trudeau, and they definitely wanted to institute someone more moderate to lead the Liberal Party, because lots of people are very Liberal Party potential voters who are off-put by some of Justin Trudeau's various histories and social beliefs, and someone more moderate, like Carney, assumed, plays better for them. And a lot of people aren't really big fans of Pierre Poilievre. They kind of see him as a little bit of a dick, and I can kind of understand. I can see that.
Bit of a weasel.
I don't know if I'd say that, but so I know a lot of people that I've worked with have said that they couldn't vote for Justin Trudeau but they don't want to vote for Pierre Poilievre. And this was back in December. Now they don't have to. And so it's definitely, at this point, it's you had predicted more of a potential bloc opposition, and I think at this point that's
that's out the window.
Exactly.
That's out the window.
And this also puts into question, how dead do you think the NDP is?
Yeah, the NDP are the ones who are getting the most screwed by all this, right? Yeah, they're toast. They're toast. And I'm an NDP guy. But I'm looking at Jagmeet's 25 seats. He's going down to 10, 15.
I was thinking 12, so yeah. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. And
I just think that there's something fundamental that we need to appreciate, and that is that sentiment in Canada has shifted to the right on questions of spending. We've gone to the right. We want to cut spending. That seems to be an overwhelming feeling that people have. Right? We've spent a lot of money with Justin Trudeau, COVID especially. Right? I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. A lot of the things that he spent money on were good. But we spent a lot of money, and now our deficit is quite high. That's why Carney, having read this, is also promising to cut spending, cut immigration, because that's what people want to hear, right? That's where people are right now. This iteration of the NDP does not meet the moment, in my opinion.
So, Nicholas, are you saying that you're going to be voting Liberal?
I didn't say that. But I'm just saying that I think it's time for a shake-up in the NDP. I think Jagmeet's time has come. I think that if Jagmeet had stepped down earlier, and I'm not saying that he should have, because I think that they did get some good things done with the supply and confidence agreement. But if there were a new leader in place, that person might have been in a position to steal a lot of the momentum, right, and actually capture the left vote. But they didn't. So I think Jagmeet's going to get crushed. I think he's going to be forced to step down after this, and we'll see what happens. But my hopes are not very high.
Are they getting rid of him?
Either he will step down of his own accord, or he will be pushed out by...
Do you have any ideas of who might be potential candidates for that race?
Well, and not to kind of go too far down the NDP...
Well, I think it's important to talk about, because if we're talking about potential parliament, potential future parliament...
For sure. Although I do want to pivot back to, this coming election, this general election. I don't know. There's a few people, I think there's going to be certain kind of more centrist NDPers. Look at Rachel Notley as an example of someone who might run and say we need to bring the party further to the center. We've pivoted too far to the left. I don't like that for the NDP. There will be people who are saying that. There's candidates in the Liberal leadership race who are super far to the right. They haven't gotten a ton of traction, but I think there's 5 total, and there's one woman who's like a bit of a nut, and she's kind of saying like Trumpist things, very very kind of like mass deportations and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think Canada needs that. I think we need to regulate our immigration, but I don't think we need mass deportations. If you find people who aren't supposed to be in your country and they break laws, get rid of them. But I don't think we here in Canada need that. Need deportations, en masse.
But just to go back to the NDP point, there is one person who is probably the NDP superstar right now. Who would you say that is?
I have no idea, but I do.
You know this person? You look like you're looking something up.
Yeah, I am. I'm Googling Naheed Nenshi, who used to be, or currently is, the mayor of Calgary, and he was trying to be the leader of the Alberta NDP, and Sarah's always talking, well, not always, but she always talked about how he was the mayor when she, of the place that she was from, and he was a really good solid NDP guy, and I heard he was running for the leadership of the Alberta NDP leadership race, and so I was thinking about him.
I don't really know anything about him.
Well,
but the answer...
Well, go ahead.
The guy that I was talking about is Wab Kinew.
I don't know that person.
Wab Kinew, Premier of Manitoba.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Indigenous dude. Very cool. He's got an incredible story. He's, not to get into Wab Kinew, but he's very impressive, very interesting. And, just speaking the right language right now. Very popular in Manitoba. I don't know if he would immediately go for leadership of the federal NDP. But I think that
I'm always a bigger fan of NDP in rural areas. Because they're typically more labor.
Yeah. And that's, I think that some of the kind of fundamentals of the NDP can be found in Wab Kinew. There's a lot of other very cool candidates. And, who knows? I'm just saying on this podcast, I do foresee Wab Kinew being the leader of the NDP, the federal NDP, at some point in the future. Like next 10 years, let's say.
Well, if you're right, we're going to come back to this and then have the biggest I told you so.
Bingo. But maybe if we can just kind of pivot back to Carney Poilievre.
I was going to say
you are convinced, and maybe just so the audience kind of understands, Kieran, you are convinced that Pierre Poilievre is inevitable.
Well,
why?
I don't want to say inevitable. That's not true, but I think that almost no matter what. I think almost no matter what, he is going to be the Prime Minister of Canada by the end of this year. I think it's not a virtual certainty. I think he has an overwhelming odds to be. So.
Okay, I'm gonna push back on that. Pierre Poilievre was polling incredibly high in 2023 and 2024, right? Justin Trudeau's popularity was in the dirt. Why? Because Pierre Poilievre was so effective at attacking Justin Trudeau. That's what he was really good at, right? Trudeau's numbers dropped. Poilievre's numbers rose. People would see his viral clips. He had all these catchphrases, right? Easy to remember: act the tax, build the homes,
carbon tax,
whatever. Yeah, well, and so this is why Poilievre was so effective, and why we all got in our heads Pierre Poilievre is inevitable. His numbers are so absurdly high that he has to become Prime Minister. Okay, let's look at what's happening today. Donald Trump is the president, right? Which was not true in 2023 and 2024. And Mark Carney is not Justin Trudeau. Mark Carney is coming in as a much more kind of fiscally conservative liberal. He is someone who's got a very impressive resume, who knows how to manage money. I don't know. I don't know everything about Carney. In fact, I don't know a whole lot.
Well, he was the head of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, so he should know economics. But he was also a major contributor in the idea of a carbon tax, I believe. So, considering everyone's talking about getting rid of it, I don't really know if that's true.
Carney has said he's going to get rid of the carbon tax.
I know.
It's such an unpopular policy right now that Carney has said, okay, go on, I'll get rid of it.
This just feels like when Kamala started to be like, no, I'm going to be the border hawk.
I disagree. I think this is different. Like, you know, I was arguing previously, and I've been wrong on so many things, but that's just, you know, that's the world we live in right now. I've been saying things like, look at history, replacing a leader at the last minute never works, right? The Conservatives tried it with Mulroney, Kim Campbell. The Liberals tried it before them, never worked. Why would it work now? Well, the difference is that Mark Carney is not coming in as like just some guy who can replace, right? Like, he's not just the kind of that would be who Chrystia Freeland is, right? I think Chrystia Freeland would be the Kamala Harris or the Kim Campbell, and it's not at all to do with gender. It's more just that, like, the kind of the vice, right? The number two steps in when the number one is unpopular, right? Carney is not the number two. Carney is not stepping in. Yes, he's been advising the Liberals. Yes, he is, you know, in that camp.
It's like if Jamie Dimon just assumed presidency.
But he's not elected, right? Mark Carney has never been elected.
And I think that's going to be hard for him. And I think that while you think that his name recognition will be a better thing in a longer campaign, I think it's going to give Pierre Poilievre more time to tear away at his potential reputation. I don't think he's as impenetrable a candidate as he.
I'm not saying I'm like I just want to kind of I'm playing a bit of devil's advocate here, right? Because while I'm not convinced that Carney will win, as I said to you before, like if I'm betting, I'm still betting on Poilievre right now. I'm just saying that Carney makes the race a lot closer. I think it means that the possibility of a Bloc Québécois opposition is now out the door. I think the NDP making gains is out the door. I think that the Liberals are going to hold on and do relatively well. I think that if they don't win, they will be in opposition. I think that they could possibly hold the Conservatives to a minority government as opposed to a majority government. Can you say that again?
I said, now you're talking my language. Remember last time we talked about it, or maybe it was the time before that, I explained how I always see these cycles of how the Conservatives get elected, and the pattern would have been interrupted here. Last time you said you were certain they were going to have a majority government, and that didn't fit with my sinusoidal wave of the cycle of Canadian politics, and a minority government is what I had predicted last time.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your prediction right now. But you have minority government.
Yeah, that would. Do you think it's
if the election
not a super majority? I mean, a super opposition. Like, is the Liberals going to be like 85% of the opposition? You know what I mean? Them be the mass, like even 60% is like most of it.
Here's a question for you. A lot of people say that Pierre Poilievre is the Trump of Canada. Now, I disagree with that. However, there are a lot of things that Poilievre has taken out of the Trump playbook and applied very effectively, right? He is a populist in the same way. He is arguing that the system is broken and that only he can fix it. He has targeted the media in a way that previous conservative, and you're very happy about that, previous conservative leaders have not done, right? Traditional media. These are all things that Trump has done very effectively, right? So I think that a lot of people go, well, Poilievre would be the best person to negotiate with Trump, right? Because that's an important relationship. Who is going to have a better relationship with Trump? Because Trump hates Trudeau, right?
Who doesn't?
So, question for you. Do you think Trump gets along better with Pierre Poilievre or Mark Carney?
It's hard to say. I think Mark Carney would probably be more the type to fold to Trump's bullying, whereas Pierre Poilievre would be more likely to just give in to his wishes. In other words, I think he's getting his way no matter what.
I disagree with that. I actually see, because Trump has a disdain for lifelong politicians, right?
Yeah, but those are
He also
politicians.
Yeah, but I think that Trump is going to look at Poilievre, and it's impossible to know what he'll think, right? Maybe he really likes Poilievre. But part of me kind of wonders, like, what can Poilievre point to on his resume that is anywhere near as impressive as Mark Carney's resume? And we know that Trump actually likes resumes. He likes when people have gone to
credentials.
He loves credentials.
For someone who's like an anti-elitist populist type, he loves credentials.
Oh, he's a fucking walking hypocrite. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but my point is just that I'm actually not 100% sure that that Poilievre is the better person to sit down in a room with Trump, right?
Oh, I don't necessarily agree. I didn't say that. I meant Poilievre.
But that's a question that voters are going to be asking themselves, right? Who is the better person to negotiate with Trump, to deal with potential tariffs? Trump seems very set on this 51st state bullshit, right? It's not a joke anymore. It's serious.
It's a joke.
It's serious. And I think that we need to be very hawkish.
I was just saying to Sarah today that just being like, no, United States, we're not going to be the 51st state, is not how you stand up to Trump. The way you stand up to Trump is you go, or how about you become one of our provinces?
Yeah. Somebody said that. I think Doug Ford said that.
Oh, maybe I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, did you watch the hockey game on Thursday?
No, I don't watch sports. It's the least blue-collar thing about me.
But do you know about it? Do you know what happened?
Yes, it was
okay.
great. Canadian
cool.
national pride is back, and I love it. Thank you.
It was
Donald Trump.
Intense. It was intense, right? And it was so much more than just the rivalry between the Canadian hockey team and the American hockey team. It felt like, national pride was on the line, and the fact that we won, anyway, it was a beautiful moment. And it also felt like it was the passing of the torch from Crosby to McDavid. Connor McDavid having scored the winning goal.
I don't know that because I don't watch sports.
Connor McDavid is the next great hockey player.
Okay. If I ever needed thank you.
Yeah, plays for the Edmonton Oilers right now. And will for the rest of his career because they'll never let him go. All to say that I think that it's impossible to predict, but I think that there are worlds in which Mark Carney wins. I think that it depends. But look, my grandfather, who's a lifelong conservative, was speaking to him on the phone the other day for his birthday. And he was saying to me, I'm voting Carney. I'm impressed by Carney. He's the guy for this moment. That says something.
Oh, yeah.
And polling doesn't lie, dude. Like,
yes, it does.
One poll lies, but when you take the ensemble of polls, when they ask people, would you vote for Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre, there are a lot of polls that say it's even or that Carney wins. There are a lot of polls that say Poilievre wins. All I'm saying that taken together, it's a close race. It's not a foregone conclusion.
Again, just the fact that I believe it is going to be a minority government is enough of a concession to your point there.
Right, but you said 90-10. You said 90-10.
90-10 was a bit of an exaggeration. 90-10 is quite a bit, but it's
okay.
It's a
so give me numbers. Give me numbers.
I have no idea how to just figure out numbers like that. I'm just speculating. It's 87.
If I had to give numbers right now, I would say 60-40.
No. Probably like
60% Pierre, 40% Carney.
3-1 is what I would guess.
3-1. Okay.
Yeah.
So 75-25.
Correct. You always were good at math.
Was I?
In high school?
You're,
Yeah, not bad.
You're the guy wearing the engineering sweater.
And or security.
And okay, which one are you?
At this point, probably security, but I would like to go. I would rather be in engineering.
Okay, so I think that kind of wraps it up. I think that it's important to acknowledge that with Trump, the rules have changed. You cannot predict things anymore. You don't know how things are going to, how the dominoes are going to fall, right? If Trump imposed tariffs, what happens? If Trump escalates talk of potentially using military force to come into Canada, what happens? All these things are, factors that will change the entire course of it, because this election is going to be about Trump, right?
More than likely. It'll be other things.
Canada's election is going to be about how to deal with Donald motherfucking Trump, right? That's it. And so Trump is going to do a whole lot of things between now and May, which is when the election will likely be, early May. And those things that he does will fundamentally change everything about this upcoming election. I think Carney is inevitable at this point, just in the leadership race. I don't think Chrystia Freeland has a shot. I don't think Karina Gould has a shot. I don't think the other candidates have a shot.
Go Karina.
I'm
actually, this is going to sound a little, I'm glad it's not a woman who's winning, because I feel like the lesson that the party would likely learn is that running a woman doesn't work. I don't want them to learn that lesson, because I think their loss is inevitable anyway. So I'm glad they are not able to.
You're glad it's a man taking the hit?
Yeah, because I think that there's going to be another leadership race after Carney loses this election. I mean, maybe not. If he holds on pretty well, then they might not do that actually now. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think if Carney does well,
I want women to do well.
I guarantee you, if Carney does well, but not well enough to win, if he is official opposition and has held Pierre to a minority government, he's going to stick around as the leader. He's going to hope that things go bad for Poilievre in his first 2 years. If it's a minority, the other parties can bring him down whenever they want. So who knows? Maybe we're looking at a 2027 federal election where Pierre has been royally screwed and Carney comes back in. Who knows? Or comes in, I should say.
No, it would be back in, because he would have been Prime Minister.
That's right.
So I think that how he performs in the election will also depend on how he reacts to Donald Trump while he's the Prime Minister, because he's going to be the Prime Minister, as much as I wanted to be Karina.
We haven't touched on the debates. There's going to be a bunch of leadership debates.
So do you know what the dates are? Or no, they probably haven't.
Well, sorry. There are Liberal leadership race debates coming up this week, I think, in Montreal, actually. One in English, one in French. But the debates I'm talking about is more the kind of federal election debates. And that is where Poilievre is very strong, right? He's good on stage. He's very articulate, I would say. I don't think he's going to get rattled. I think he knows how to get under people's skin. He's going to attack Carney effectively, I think, in debates. And I don't think Carney's going to be very effective at parrying and counterattacking.
Yeah.
This is not his world.
This is the perfect opportunity for the Green Party to swoop in. Just kidding.
The Green Party. Poor Green Party.
Yeah.
They're a mess.
And now the NDP is as well. It's great. Left-wing politics is destroyed.
Yeah, the NDP are not a mess. The NDP have just the kind of back and forth. Just to go back to the NDP for a minute. The NDP were in a supply and confidence agreement with Justin Trudeau from 2021 to 2020, if I'm not mistaken. The supply and confidence might have started in 2022. Anyway, basically 3 full years, they kind of governed together. The Conservatives and the Bloc get to a point where they're ready to vote no confidence, but the NDP do not. Right? They
held it up.
They refuse to vote no confidence, but this is after they tear up the supply and confidence agreement. Right? They made a big announcement. We're done working with these guys. We can't work with them anymore. Okay. So you want to bring them down? No, we're actually going to continue to uphold them by voting against no confidence. So all of a sudden people go, what? What do you mean? Then Chrystia Freeland does her whole thing in December, right? Where she writes that scolding letter announcing her resignation the day she was supposed to present the budget. We see Justin Trudeau kind of in free fall, and Jagmeet then says, we're going to be voting no confidence. We demand that Trudeau resign. I think that's actually what they said. We demand that Trudeau resign. Even though they had just voted against no confidence like a month earlier, right? So it's kind of like people are kind of going, what? Pick. What do you want? Do you want the Liberals gone, or do you want them to stay? It's not clear.
Yeah, and I think that's,
you know what I mean?
I think that's why they're going to get so trashed, because they failed to actually stand up for anything. I think that's what it feels like.
Look, the supply and confidence, they got pharmacare. They got it. That's a big deal, right? And that's what they're going to run on in this election. That's what they're going to run on, right? Is that we're focused on delivering. It won't work. It's not going to be an effective message, but that is going to be their message, right? Is that we got stuff done. Our priority is you, the Canadian people.
Well, plus Pierre Poilievre, all he has to do to Jagmeet to say, you're the one who propped up the most hated man in Canada right now, within Canada.
Jagmeet is arguably more connected to Trudeau than Mark Carney is.
Exactly.
Right? The whole line that the Conservatives are going to throw at Carney to pivot away from the NDP and back towards the kind of Liberal-Conservative race.
But I like the NDP.
I like the NDP too. I hope that...
Did you know that if I wanted to run for election, I would want to run under the NDP? I'm not saying I'm going to. I'm just saying that's where I would want to be. And that confuses you.
That confuses me because I know who you voted for last time.
Yeah, that's okay.
For the other folks, it was not the NDP.
I haven't voted for the NDP since 2015. Anyway, that's not important.
Okay. We're going to talk about this off camera.
I don't think it's important. It's just like an if statement. I'm never going to do that. I don't want to do that.
Maybe to kind of wrap up.
Just to drop that bomb on everybody.
Would you be willing to make any predictions about Trump vis-a-vis Canada in the next month or two? Do you think he will impose tariffs?
We're going to see tanks on the border. I think we're all doomed. No, I'm kidding. Tariffs are definitely coming in. On what? It's hard to say. I think a lot of the stuff that he's doing is just posturing and bluffing, but I don't think he's bluffing about the financial aspects of it by any means. He wants to use tariffs not just as an economic tool, but also as a retribution for countries that he's felt have abused the United States financially in terms of trade deals.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that he's not putting bigger tariffs on China, in my opinion. I think they deserve it a lot more than we do.
Well, they're actually the only country that they've targeted with tariffs officially so far.
But
there are 10% tariffs on Chinese goods right now.
Yeah.
There are no tariffs specifically targeted at Canadian and Mexican goods as of this moment.
Because it's on the table. It's like,
it's on both.
Do I play the card?
Here's what I think.
Are we going to be
the
censored?
30-day kind of deadline that Trump gave Trudeau a few weeks ago, I think is March 12th. I think. Mark Carney will be the Prime Minister by then. Which means in the span of 2 or 3 days, there is going to be a phone call between Mark Carney and Donald Trump. And that phone call will determine whether tariffs get imposed on Canada or not. One phone call.
I also think that
if it goes well, if Trump likes Carney, we might be able to avoid it.
I also think that phone call and the precedent that it lays in their relationship will determine whether or not Mark Carney is elected Prime Minister a second time. If he folds in the beginning,
well, elected,
he's going to get
the first time.
Well, yes.
He will not have been elected.
So how are you Prime Minister if you're not even a minister?
It's a parliamentary system. This is how a parliamentary system works, right?
That just sounds like an excuse, isn't it?
No, we're not a republic, right? This is just how it works.
Yeah, no. I just thought you had to be a minister to be the Prime Minister.
Well, he's got the endorsements of pretty much all the ministers, so
someone's going to give him a seat.
And if Mark Carney has a productive and effective phone call with Trump, because he is going to be the Prime Minister, right? While he's running as the candidate in the general race, he's going to be the Prime Minister, right? Which means he's going to be talking to Trump, and his ability to work with Trump to have a semi productive, not antagonistic relationship with the guy could punch his ticket to actually being elected Prime Minister. You know what I mean? Like, that could happen. If they get off the phone and announce, okay, well, Canada's has made a few more concessions. We're going to be investing more in the Arctic, but no tariffs. Oh my God, we're going to be out in the streets celebrating. No recession.
I don't think Donald Trump is going to have an ounce of respect for Mark Carney, because Mark Carney's only worth about $5 to $10 million.
You're looking up. Worth 5 to 10 million or billion?
Million. That's why I said.
Million.
That's why I said he won't have any respect for him. You're a central banker,
no, but
and you're only worth 5 to 10 million.
He's gonna like the credentials, as you said. He's gonna like those credentials.
He does. He loves his credentials. He's always bragging about those.
Mark Carney's thinking about it, right? Mark Carney is talking to Justin Trudeau. He's talking to people about, how do I manage this guy? How do I talk to Trump?
I don't think you can.
He's thinking about that hard, guaranteed. And he's going to come in with a strategy, right? Because Mark Carney, no doubt, understands your relationship with Trump will determine whether you are elected in May and retain the prime ministership.
Which he won't, but that's okay. Because there's no managing Donald Trump. Donald Trump's going to start around and do it.
But we know what Donald Trump likes, right? We've seen this guy in the spotlight for 8 years, nonstop. We know how he functions. We know how he thinks. We can't predict what he's going to do. But the fundamentals of what Trump likes, who Trump likes, we know that.
Yeah, it's one of the funniest things I heard was if he wanted Donald Trump to save all the children of Palestine, you would get them all wearing MAGA hats. He would love.
Basically,
they loved him so much that he would be like, no, that's your guys' land.
Well, yeah, like, that's one thing that we know is he loves flattery, right? He loves when people grovel.
But I don't think he likes central bankers, so I don't think he's gonna like Mark Carney very much. And I think just because Pierre Poilievre is a right-wing populist, I think he's going to get along with him better just based on that fact, even if you're correct. He's not a fan of lifelong politicians, which, interestingly enough, neither am I. But Pierre Poilievre is just that. He's been in politics his entire life. He knows the system, he knows the game, and he's played it for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
there's also just like,
the game of
we need to think about just folks, just so to situate you, the German election just happened. I'm not sure, were you following what J.D. Vance said in Europe?
Vaguely, I don't remember all of it though. I agreed with it in the general sentiment.
Yeah, basically, he went to this some big security conference of the EU, and he was saying like the greatest threat to Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's the kind of threat within, the enemy within. It's your censoring of free speech, it's your woke policies. He was basically chastising those European politicians and parties that, he is against. And in doing so, he was empowering a lot of kind of far-right parties. We know Elon Musk is also using Twitter as a means of interfering in foreign elections, right? And the reason that the German election just moved away from the previous liberal or left-leaning government, the Conservatives won, but the second place was the far-right party that has a lot of ties to Nazism.
The AFD.
Yes. You just look that up. Don't pretend you have that.
I know who the AFD is. I've heard about their shenanigans.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with the Nazism. You can associate lots of different people with Nazism. I can associate Justin Trudeau with Nazism because he brought one into, our most sacred halls in politics.
Oh yeah, he did do that. Prince Harry dressed up as a Nazi once.
Yeah, it's funny how many people do that.
But this is different, right? This is a party that's
again. Look, I agree with some of
neo-Nazi beliefs. Anyway, not to get into that. The point that I'm making,
they are the far right party, whatever you want to say about it. However far right they are,
it looks like Trump is on a mission to empower far right parties in other countries.
Look, if he's able to,
right?
If he's able to empower a nationalist movement around the world, where every country decides that they want to be strong, so that they can stand up for themselves against forces beyond what they currently see as their capabilities, then I generally think that's a good thing, as long as some of them don't go really badly. Which is always the thing you got to watch out for.
Let me point you to Germany.
Of course, you can.
In 1933, my friend, it went pretty badly. It went pretty badly.
Look at Japan. Japan is a hyper-nationalistic country. They are not that. And if they want to be strong and independent so that they don't have to rely on the United States for their protection from, say, North Korea and China, I think that's all for the better. I don't want them to go full, Third Reich or anything. Like, that's ridiculous. But, I think if more of Europe was like that, I think that would be a good thing. Personally, I think it's important for you to be strong enough to take care of yourself, because you can't always rely on other people, and I think that's one thing Donald Trump is currently showing the world, is that you guys can't rely on the United States to do everything for you.
But that's not what far-right populism is. Far-right populism
it's a lot of different things. It's going to be incredibly variable depending on the countries that it's in. Because European
I think that's more just like
European
a
far right is more about the cultures of the areas than it is about than it is in the United States. Far right populism in the United States is far more economically right wing
I,
than
yeah.
European far right populists.
Not to wade into this too hard, but far right populism to me is much more about being anti-establishment and also being big on us versus them. Right within the far right, there are certain groups of people who are considered the us, and they thrive on having an enemy. Right.
Everyone does that, Nick. Every party does that. Every party makes.
You don't think that Donald Trump and his kind of polarizing us versus them is that you're saying that's just par for the course?
I'm saying that, yeah, everyone does it. Everyone makes an enemy and points at the reason why there's the problem. It might not be specific individuals, but sometimes it's it's the rich. Oh, it's the elite in politics. It's rich movie stars who are a giant cabal of pedophiles or something like. Every group finds another and uses them as the reason why their party is the one that needs to be elected.
I strongly disagree with you. I think that you look at Trump, who won the 2016 election by promising to build a wall between the United States and Mexico, right?
Yeah,
they're basically saying, fuck the immigrants, fuck people who want to come into our country.
Legally.
They cannot come.
Yeah, illegally. You can come in legally. There's nothing wrong with having a border that is secure when you have mass amounts of drugs that come through.
But you agree that just Trump's othering of immigrants, and let's be clear, he wanted to deport, he wanted to ensure
illegal,
and not just illegals. He wanted to take Obama in 2004. What did he become famous for? I don't see a blue America and a red America. I see the United States of America. His message was unity, right? Obama and his kind of successors in Clinton, Biden, and Kamala Harris all ran on messages of unity. I don't actually agree with you that everyone does that.
I completely disagree, because you're forgetting about the aspect of the attack dogs from your side of the political aisle. The establishment media has been attacking Donald Trump as a villain since the moment he came down those stairs, and it's obvious that they're just doing the bidding of effectively the left-wing establishment. They're all people. They all go in the same circles. They all know each other. This is why when he talks about the elite, it resonates with people, because there really are. If you look at the United States in terms of the way that it votes, you have speckles of cities that are blue, but you look at the places that have the hyper elite in the United States, they're all super blue. All those rich, like California.
I don't disagree. I just think that when we're talking specifically about politicians, and it's true that there is Democratic establishment, Democratic kind of left-leaning media, I'm just saying that in the context of someone like Obama, he did run on a message of unity.
I agree in that case. I do not agree with Hillary Clinton. I do not agree in the case of Joe Biden. I do not agree with it in the case of Kamala Harris. They all used him as the other. He was the ill of America.
Well, that's just admittedly, the Democratic Party has become more the anti-Trump party than anything. So I don't disagree with that. But my point is just that I don't agree with when you say something like every politician tries to polarize people into kind of having an us category and a them category. I don't agree with that.
Bernie Sanders does it. The millionaires and the billionaires. That's a target.
The millionaires and the billionaires. Oh, Bernie! I love Bernie.
I would love to meet Bernie Sanders. I think he would be a real chill guy to hang out with.
Yeah. Well, actually, I actually don't know. I don't think Bernie Sanders chills.
No, and I mean, just like to meet him and like be like, hey, nice to meet you, Bernie. Um,
Yeah.
he seems like a really.
I'd say
really
nice to meet you, Senator Sanders. I'm a big fan.
I'm just a random
Yeah.
nobody. You don't know who I am.
Yeah. Could you write me a reference letter?
I'm trying to become Prime Minister of Canada.
Yeah.
That's you
Anyway.
saying, not me.
I think that's probably a good place to leave it. We will obviously see what happens in the next few weeks with Carney, no doubt, coming in as Prime Minister, and how his initial conversations with Trump go. And I think that will be the topic of our next podcast.
Yeah, and we'll get to talk about how it all unfolded and how you're completely wrong and I was right the whole time. And Karina Gould did end up winning, and it's a completely different landscape in this podcast.
She came out of nowhere.
Completely garbage, and we're just gonna have to delete it. Anyway,
the darkest horse candidate. Yeah.
I'm always rooting for the dark horse or the
underdog. Yeah.
Underdog. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Nicholas. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, folks.